is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
So finally, from here in Seattle, we do not come to this part of the country as often as we should or as often as we would like. But every time it is to focus on something happening here, which ultimately affects the rest of the nation. Why, even gourmet coffee is now everywhere. More often, it has been challenges in the fishing industry or aerospace that have brought us here. And every year we notice it is the power that increasingly sweeps out from here of computer technology. Microsoft's influence in this region is enormous. For every one of its own employees, Microsoft creates more than 3 jobs in related businesses. Find.com, with about 30 employees, is a startup company here in Seattle which helps businesses market themselves on the internet. Dan Fine says he will double his workforce this year and acknowledges he owes it all to Microsoft.
Microsoft has helped us use the products, get trained on them, learn how to really move the technology forward.
The technology is constantly moving forward.
You're watching Cairo TV 7. Cairo means news.
Okay, right now I'm using Netscape to check some political news on the World Wide Web. I could as easily use Microsoft's Internet Explorer. Does it really matter which of these browsers we use? Maybe the larger question is, what's really at stake in these browser wars? We put the question to Dan Fine, an internet developer in downtown Seattle. He says the real prize is in the back offices of businesses and corporations, where the software needed to run the exploding number of internet server machines sells for thousands of dollars.
You know, I have to buy a Netscape server or Commerce server, or I have to buy Windows NT operating system. And those are thousands of dollars. You know, NT is about $1,000, and Netscape can be up to $5,000. That's where the money is. That's what they want to do, is control the back end, the operating system.
Searching for a house on the internet made it a lot easier for me and my wife. I was able to look at lots of photographs and descriptions of properties locally. Windermere has been growing very, very rapidly the last several years. We have over 4,000 agents, 147 offices, about 600 owners and staff, and it was getting harder and harder to communicate with everybody, service all of our offices. We send out a weekly communication, and we've got a courier service that goes to and from all of our offices once a week. So I was given the task of trying to figure out a way to develop a wide area network. Our original approach was all fairly traditional, hard-coded HTML documents. The primary data that we use is our multiple listing service, the homes that are for sale. Every time there was a price change, we had to get the HTML programmers back in there. So we decided it really needed to be a database. We managed to sort of crack the code at the MLS, pull it down into SQL servers. Using the WebDBC product, we were able to create HTML pages on the fly. And we went from a lumpy system to all of a sudden now we've got 10,000 listings online. One of the things that our internet site has allowed our agents to do is see product in areas that they don't work in. And we're reaching the point now where we can transfer documents straight to escrow, straight from the lender, back to the real estate company. And it is prompting our agents to learn about computers. Our long-range goal is to have every one of our agents have a laptop computer. What they can do with a laptop is they can go into a seller's living room and begin to show the seller our marketing programs.
I've had like 5,000 some visits to my homepage, and I probably have 75 to 80 clients I'm still working with at different stages of their buying cycle, and I've sold 8 houses through my initial connection with the internet.
I would definitely use the internet to search for our next home. I'm in the real estate business. I don't want to become a technician. I want to be able to tell someone what I want on our website and have it be there.
And we try to make it easy for them so that they have a consistent package, a well-managed site, easy to work with, easy to use, and we make it easy for people to connect.
The first solutions that were proposed to us cost up to $1 million. And the internet, on the other hand, was as little as $25 or $30 per office per month.
One of the most important things that we did was we tried to standardize it for them, to make it simple.
Data in our business is stored in many different formats.
We try to use, one type of software in each application and recommend them to, use the same.
By going with the Microsoft SQL Server, it gives us one common platform, open architecture platform, that we can then use in any other format.
And it's constantly refreshed, constantly new inventory.
We house everything on the same web server, but the files for the internal documents are all password protected. Right now we have 3 levels of security. There's out to the public, then there are certain privileges that the individual agents have access to, such as they can edit their listings, change prices, change comments. And then there's what we call internet coordinators can do, which is the authorized person in each office.
They've made it easier for their customers to buy from them. They've made it easier for their agents to sell. They've made it easier for their agents to talk to each other and become better agents, and they've become a better company because of it.
Bottom line is it will help us stay competitive and help us do our business better.
Find.com started out as an interactive marketing response company, a group of professionals with advertising and marketing backgrounds to support our clients. We use Microsoft products. We are a level 3 site builder, the first level 3 site builder for Microsoft. Our corporation has developed from simply marketing and advertising to business solutions in general, using technology, in this case the internet-related technologies, to supply answers for our customers' questions and needs. Most clients started with the internet in general as a promotional and or marketing vehicle. And as we became more familiar with it, the intranet applications jumped out at us. When we talk about the intranet applications for organizations, they usually fall into 2 categories. It's either an operational function or it's a cost function. Operationally, it's the ability to disseminate information more accurately in a more timely manner to a greater number of people. From a financial standpoint, we can do all those things instead of paper, printing, mail, or other form of distribution. We can really hook people up with the cost of a local phone call. And instead of something that might take a week to distribute, we can do it literally with the push of a button, making it available online. The world and the applications surrounding the internet are endless. The intranet applications for our customers will continue to grow and develop. In some ways, it will actually change the way people do business.
Carestone is a company that's about 1 year old. We specialize in providing reinsurance for health plans, for healthcare, medical risk takers. Our job is to help medical risk takers manage catastrophic care and the cost of catastrophic illness. We are a company that markets in all 50 states. We're only a year old, but we already have offices in 8 different cities around the country. And I think it's probably fair to say that we have clients at this point in virtually all 50 states. So we had to figure out various ways to get as close to a rather geographically diverse customer base as we could. That being said, we committed ourselves from the very beginning of our company to having what is effectively intranet presence, not only for internal communication, but for product design and delivery, as well as communication to our customers. The reason for the intranet is primarily because the tools, the infrastructure of communication, is basically platform independent, widely available, reasonably inexpensive, and accessible to a large number of people. In other words, the cost of empowering a partner or an employee, whether they be at home or at their office, is low, it's achievable. Secondly, the development tools for the intranet applications are pretty efficient now. And so we felt comfortable committing ourselves to using the intranet metaphor as a way of achieving these goals of minimum staff, product sophistication, and remaining close to our customers.
This is a company that's not, they're not used to the internet, and I think the strategy was, let's start them with something that's community building, that kind of helps them do it in an unthreatening way, something they can take or leave or use when they want to. So we started with something called the Budget Traveler, where employees for the company who travel quite a bit, most of them do, can sort of put in their tips for great hotels in a certain city or any city across the United States, and also for restaurants. And then also we built a feature through a website called vicinity.com, where they can actually what they call blast a map right there just by knowing the address of the hotel. And then there is a project status billboard, I guess you would call it, where people can, at a glance, look at all the projects that are going on across the country in this particular company, see who the owners are, and see what the status of the project is. And then there is the employee switchboard, which is just a contact type of function where we have 2 to 3 weeks of calendar time where every employee can input what they're doing on a particular day, where they'll be, and how they can be contacted. We also put the employee handbook online, which is a nice thing for them because anytime they need to do updates, they don't need to do a printed version any further. And then kind of a what's new board, so people can input new happenings within the company.
There are some new products that we're going to be bringing out in our intranet that also serve to position us as a very sophisticated technology partner for our customers. A classic example are claims payment. As a medical provider or medical reinsurer, the primary obligation we have is prompt payment of claims. The industry standard of payment of claims is 6 to 8 weeks nowadays in the catastrophic end. We are going to be, we already have launched with Find.com, a project to use our intranet technology to allow our customers to submit claims to us electronically. And we have a long-term objective of cutting down the turnaround in claims payment by 2/3. I mean, we expect that we will be able to pay most of our claims in a week or 2 as opposed to 6 weeks, which will be a dramatic statement to our customers about our use of technology.
Our client came and asked us for software, server, platform recommendations, and our recommendation was to do this on an NT server and standardize their company with Microsoft software. Their big emphasis was that they wanted to be able to do integration with the browser so that people who are in this company who are somewhat computer phobic will have one interface to deal with and not a lot of learning time. And our experience with Microsoft and the integration that they've now come out with Office 97, with Internet Explorer, and the continued integration of their other software products has made Microsoft an easy choice as a recommendation.
Comparing what we've accomplished in the last 6 months against, let's say, 2 other systems that I was involved with previous employers, I would say our current technology, the intranet-based technology with Find.com that we've just put in place is probably one full order of magnitude cheaper, 1/10 the cost of the last equivalent system that I observed being created. And I think the implementation risk is probably a half or less than what it was before. So I think that the ability to wisely make reasonable investments in this technology is a much more prudent business decision today than it ever has been in the past. The power of the applications, the cost effectiveness of the technology have never been better, and it made it for an easy decision to invest in the system.
Optiva is the manufacturer of the Sonicare sonic toothbrush. It's the world's first sonic toothbrush that was developed in conjunction with the University of Washington. We've been around for about 4 years now, selling our product throughout the United States and the world, and we've gone from about 0 to over 350 employees in the last 3.5, 4 years, and our sales have gone from 0 to over 50 million last year.
The first time we met with Optiva, they really wanted to build their site in stages. And so their first objective was to actually give their customers the most basic information, and that is where to find their products. So that was the first goal that we tried to achieve with our site. When the user comes into the Sonicare website, they'll see just a few basic options, and our goal was just to get them the most basic information of all, where to find the product and how it worked and what was special about it. When the user comes in and they actually want to do a search on stores for their particular city, they come in and they'll find the store where they can buy the product. But the nice thing about this website is the back end of it actually for the client.
From the internet perspective, the website allows us to track our advertising. It allows us to develop a solid database of customers for customer loyalty and direct response programs. And it actually allows us to track how effective our specific retail partners are. For instance, we can actually measure how many units per sale per store per week or month a specific retailer or an individual store in a chain is, and use that information to build a better program with them. And we can use the internet side of the web also to take a look at some of our dealers and find out what part of the country, what store, what region is more effective, and tailor-make either advertising or merchandising programs for them based on that information.
So even though we're building out the internet, and that's obviously the most visible side, we're continuing to develop the intranet side of this site, and actually the intranet and the internet kind of go hand in hand. So every new section that we develop, we keep in mind that there are intranet applications on the back end for the client to actually capture information from the user's experience and use it to their own advantage.
The bottom line about the website for us is it allows us to gather valuable market data, and with this data we can develop marketing programs that are more effective, more efficient, and that impacts our bottom line.
Now, technology is an important aspect of dealing with the internet and intranet. Now, I realize most of you do have a very deep understanding of the technologies involved here. But that's not the case for everybody that's getting on the internet. I'd like to take and spend some time talking with a company that isn't necessarily a technology company, and yet they're embracing the technology of the intranet and internet fully to allow them to solve their own problems that they're having in exposing themselves internally and externally and dealing with issues at their company. Here to talk to me about that from Marriott is Mike Pescateri. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Rob.
I realize that you've really been doing an awful lot in the very recent history here about dealing with the intranet and internet in your company. What's that meaning for you guys?
Well, as you mentioned, we are a people company. We've got about 200,000 employees, and we realized the last part of last year that the internet was going to be big for Marriott in 3 ways. The first is that people are voting. In 1995, there was virtually no commerce on the net. And in 1996, estimates are about $500 million. And the second largest group, or what people paid for, was travel. And we found ourselves in an area where people are voting with their wallets, and they're saying travel is going to be big on the internet. the size of our company with 200,000 employees, the intranet is also going to be a big opportunity for us in cost savings. And then finally, having a large distribution system, a billion-dollar company where we sell to other companies our orange juice that we provide to our hotels and our food and so on and so forth. We saw that as an opportunity in terms of EDI potentially. So we looked at this and said, we really need to get more serious about internet, intranet, and extranet opportunities. And so we created this department, Interactive Sales and Marketing, to look at it from the internet side to begin with, but then hopefully to harvest what we learned inside the company.
So essentially you're taking your existing business models and just kind of seeing how that business model can be leveraged on the intranet and internet. Now, are you mainly focusing on communications within your employee base, or are you also trying to deal with people that might be your customers and communicating with them via the internet?
Well, we have over 8 million people in our frequent guest program, and we've been a marketer, direct marketing for 10 years, and we see interactive marketing, I guess 10 years ago was direct mail, and now it's become the internet, and we see that transition very important, and that we just extend that program onto the internet. So consumers are big for us, but also we see it internally as well as a big opportunity on property. For training, delivering training on property is going to be a huge value to us. And then reaching our employees globally, because we're growing at a pretty quick clip on a global basis. We just bought the Renaissance Hotel chain, which puts us into several new countries that we've not been in, like China and the USSR. Or Russia, I should say.
Yeah. Since Marriott really isn't what I would call a company of programmers, how are you dealing with that? Are you taking and finding it necessary to create another section within yourself that is a set of programmers, or are you just retraining existing people for doing that, or what is the issue there?
Well, I'll tell you, we are looking at competencies, and the competencies that we need to manage the site month to month, day to day, to be competitive, to make money. We see it as a commerce opportunity. And initially we were more graphic focused. And what we're finding out over time now is really dynamically working with the information that we have is becoming a way to be more competitive. So as a result, it's becoming much more technically focused. And we're looking outside, frankly, for solution providers. And Microsoft has been helpful in helping us identify, working with your solution providers. Find.com is a leading solution provider who came in and worked with us, took our senior management in a closed session for 2 days, and we prioritized what I would call some of the no-brainers that we wanted to just get out there and try to work on and see if we could provide some solutions. And what we're finding is that we can do it quicker, easier, and less expensive than we ever imagined.
By outsourcing the capabilities?
Well, by outsourcing and using internet technologies. We take 100 million phone calls, over 100 million phone calls a year, and over 20 million reservations a year. And the systems that run that are large, mainframe processing systems. And we have a lot of competency around that. But on the internet, it's such an emerging new area. We're seeking outside help for that. And as I said, we've got Find.com. We're also working with a mapping company, Vicinity.com, who is helping us develop mapping capabilities, because we believe that's important for our consumers, as well as on property for providing consumers that at the guest level. And you see some of that in the demo later on.
So it sounds like you've actually got a fairly complex buildup of what you're doing on your site. You mentioned originally you were thinking about, graphics was where it's going to be at. So just having interesting photographs and fancy graphics, maybe some animated GIFs and stuff like that might be what the focus would be. But so you're saying that you're now actually dealing more with a lot of databases and some of this, mapping software.
We put it into kind of 3 buckets. There's an information bucket, which basically is how you portray the information, and that's HTML, mostly static content. There's a lot of people out there who can build static web pages, okay, and that's a key. You want the look and feel thing to be, at least the look to be good. And then the middle bucket is kind of navigation, which is not only the order of the pages, but dynamically creating information on the fly, if you will.
Giving the user a good experience while they're looking.
Yes, exactly, because a website has a sense of place. It's different than other mediums where in print you read print, you listen to the radio, you watch TV, but you actually visit a website. And there's an analogy in our business, when you visit a hotel, we want you to come back. It's kind of like when you come to our hotel and you come in the lobby, you have an experience and you feel good and it's warm, and you decide, you have a choice whether you're going to come back or not. And the internet kind of works that way. So we want to extend that sense of place in our hotels when people come to our website. And it's that navigation, that middle bucket, really, that does that. And then furthermore, for companies like ours who have all this information reservation information, kind of your interests in terms of profiling, you know, vacations that are important to you, where you go, and so on and so forth. Taking that information from our databases and then bringing it out and offering you new experiences. So that third bucket would be, you know, we're calling it the e-commerce bucket, but really what it is access to the legacy systems. And so working with our people that are running our mainframes they're housing all that rich information, we want to crack that box and get that stuff out so that we can have the users actually, you know, benefit from all this information in there in terms of new offerings that might be interesting to them.
Well, that sounds great. I mean, why don't we take a time to take a look at what your site looks like and see what sort of solutions you're providing people.
Great.
Okay. So, Mike, the website we're going to take a look at is for employees or customers, or how does this work?
Actually, this is developed for employees and also our franchisees.
The franchisees meaning?
People on our properties like employees, but they're actually separate companies that own the properties that we, you know, sell our franchise to. So it's just like a normal, you know, like any franchise operation. But so the way to think about it would be kind of like an intranet application for the benefit of on-property staff and employees.
Okay, so as a standard person browsing through the internet, I'm not necessarily going to run across this page.
Well, that's an interesting point you make. The third largest group of people staying in our hotels are our employees. And so we think maybe on the internet it's going to happen that way too, that we'll have a large percentage of people coming to our internet site who will be employees and actually want access to this. So we're also working out the password security issues to get people from our internet site who come in there and want to get to this page.
So as an employee, they're going to be a slightly different customer and get a little bit more access because they're expecting, hey, I'm a great employee, I should be able to find out stuff.
That was also the value of doing this, looking at internet and intranet and extranet at the same time. We want that look and feel thing. When people are at Marriott, we don't want them to care whether they're on our internet or at the intranet or the extranet. We just want them to feel like they're at Marriott. So we want that look and feel to flow through the internet, the intranet. So we're working simultaneously on this. And if you have the option to do that or not to do that, we chose the option to do that so that the employee, just like when people stay in our hotels, they know they're at a Marriott. When they're at our website or they're on the internet, no matter intranet or internet, they know they're at Marriott. So we want to have that same look and feel flow through.
Well, let's take a look at what your site offers.
Sure. This is the what we might call the personalization page, where you can identify kind of who you are, and obviously you only have to do this once, so that when you come back, it knows who you are, and you can personalize it and also get information. Now, this is a property that is in the first 4 weeks. Okay, so in the initial staging of a hotel or getting a hotel started, there's different things that you do depending what week of operation you're in. And in the first couple of weeks, you might, for example, want to know what the company has to say about their brand standards. So we would provide you with all this information. This is really important for our brands because we want to maintain that level of consistency with all the hotels.
So if I was someone that was opening up a Marriott hotel someplace, this would assist me in understanding what Marriott as a corporation had already learned as the process for doing that.
Exactly, precisely. And so, you know, you've got food and beverage specs and so on and so forth on here that you can kind of browse through.
Now, in the past, this was probably like a large document or something like that I'd be slapping on top of my desk.
We had manuals like clearly, and like this high, you could stack them up, and then you'd have to find in the manual what you wanted, and so on. And then the updating of them was just incredible. You know, we'd have to send updates, and who's going to on property do that, and all that's taking the people on property away from the service that could be benefiting, you know, providing to you as a customer. So saving time like this on the property actually benefits the people showing up at the desk because they get more of our people's time. And then here you have the corporate history, you know, kind of like just the background on the company. If you're a new employee, you might want to do this. Corporate awards, we have the Award of Excellence that we do every year. Bill Marriott gives out an award to employees and so on and so forth. So we can, you know, you can go in there and take a look at that and see.
Do they get their picture on the webpage?
Absolutely, yeah. And then we have here kind of a directory. If you wanted to find some other people, and this happens a lot today especially, in a given city like Atlanta, we have 40 properties, which is the size of some chains, okay? And for, you know, getting information from property to property is becoming a key. So in this way, you can search for employees by department, by name, and point and shoot email, which is great. So that you can just, you know, once you get that name, you can email it and send a message to them. So location of other employees, departments, and so on. And then here, human resources, you know, we have an employee search, live chats. We're looking at that as an option, but also benefits are big in terms of the amount of data that, you know, information that's out on books and our guides to benefits. Huge opportunity. Our benefits people saw this as a great way to lower the cost and extend the reach.
because it allows people to actually customize how they're looking at the benefit data and identify themselves to the system, so rather than have to use some complex forms and junk like that.
Actually, also, too, I mean, some of this we deliver, too, by telephone. And when you think about the cost of that, also 24 hours. You know, the Internet's a 24-hour medium. You know, if you're at home or, you know, one of the things we learned is that people have more technology at corporate in their house than they do in corporate. So, I mean, it's just anywhere as you are, you can get access to this stuff, which is really, really great. You don't have to be in your office where the book is sitting on the shelf.
Right.
Okay. And then, of course, you know, the basic legal gobbledygook that you have here. But any legal issues, you know, equal opportunity policies, communications. We have an open door policy for employees. All that information out on the net so people can get at it.
So all the information that you're essentially, you know, required to provide for your employees, and plus they're needing access to find out what their standing is.
Exactly.
They got that information right here, and they know it's the most recent up to date, rather than constantly have to wonder, gee, you know, was that memo I got a year ago still valid?
And that's the big thing too, because often, you know, with the mail, you know, even when something's updated in January, by the time it hits our property people and gets to the right people, you know, it could be days, weeks, and sometimes months later. So the instant updating is really a big benefit, particularly when you're in the human resources area.
Mm-hmm. Now, is the updating of this information, is that done by Marriott, or is this being done by like Find.com or some other company?
Well, you know, as I mentioned earlier, you know, we're looking at the different competencies that we need. Right now, there's a lot of information that we have, either in, most of it's not, it's in print, but it's in some sort of electronic format. But still, making it web ready requires some translation. And so we've identified people like Fine that have competencies in those areas, and that can, you know, make that happen for us real quickly, because it's one of these things, the more you do, the more demand you create for doing it.
Right.
I mean, with 200,000 employees, you can imagine how much information there is that we're, you know, moving around our company.
So the base aspect that the Marriott's doing is just identifying what information they're needing to get on the web,
yeah,
and then they have someone else actually publish that for them.
Exactly. And as I said before, a lot of the initial stuff here, I mean, a lot of the work has been thought out about prioritization, what information is important, because we had it in print and we did that prioritization. So a lot of it's just taking it and getting it onto the web, onto the internet. So there's two other functions I'd like to show you here. One is, as it relates to an extranet and working with vendors, if you want to just put cocktail in there for me, please. Oh, I'm going to get it here. Sure. What you can do here, if you're on property and say, for example, you want to buy cocktail glasses or you know, utensils and so on and so forth. Here's one. This is the cocktail glass, Cardinal cocktail glass, and it has, you know, the cost, the order form, and you can just, you know, fill this out, submit it, and ship it in, and, you know, and it'll show up at your property. So
that's a nice little cocktail glass.
You like that, huh?
Yeah.
That's be good for champagne, right? So ordering on property, again, you know, predominantly done through paper, and here we can do it instantly and so on. And then this last feature, which is what I think is our coolest feature, is this is something we did for our internet. And again, working with your internet, and extranet at the same time, you start to see, hey, there's some benefits. We're doing this for the internet, but there's really an internet application for it as well. On the internet, we found through surveying our site that people wanted mapping capabilities. They wanted to know how to get where they were going to go. And so we worked with this company called Vicinity. They basically do the mapping for, you know, Yahoo and others. And they've developed a mapping product for us where you can go in here, for example, you can either search, but in this case, Italian food, all right? And, you know, let's say you want to go to a Meals restaurant, you can just hit, you know, map it. And there you go, you got a map. Now you can do, you know, we're looking at destination-centric, property-centric mapping, okay? So if you're on the website as an internet user, you can go in and find, you know, locations close to the property. If you're a salesperson and you're going to make 6 calls that day, you could put in the locations and you could do your whole trip, okay?
So this gives you not only what the map is around that area, but also some driving instructions?
Yes, you can either get a map to where you're going or turn-by-turn directions, and you can print them out, and, you know, you've got your basic agenda for the day, you know, turn-by-turn directions. And we were looking at this from an internet standpoint, but the other thing we realized is that on our intranet, for our franchisees, extranet, or our employees, say at a Courtyard hotel, where in that front desk area, you're going to have, you know, your extranet capabilities, some of the other things that I showed you. If somebody walked up to the desk and said, gee, you know, any good Chinese restaurants around here, they could just turn to this, go in, and they'd search on Chinese. They have a yellow business-to-business, local business-to-business database, and it would give you the closest Chinese restaurant. It even has ratings on some of the restaurants that they've provided. And so that, and then just print it out and say, here you go. And it's all turn-by-turn directions to any category. So we see that as a, you know, we weren't thinking about that originally, but when we licensed this software for our internet site, it became a big value for our intranet and extranet sites as well.
Well, thanks a lot, Mike. That's pretty exciting. I think what we need to do now is find out some more of the technology sitting behind the site. And to help talk us through that, we have Robert Barker from Find.com to understand what really went on behind the scenes after Marriott passed the information to them.
Great.
Robert, I'm glad you could join us. We just got through chatting with Mike about his Marriott website, and I understand that Find.com actually designed the website for Marriott.
That's correct.
Now, can you tell me what exactly was involved with designing such a website? I mean, at one level, it looked like we had a very standard website with, you know, some graphic elements, some database connectivity pieces, some personalization capabilities, even some online ordering. So it kind of touched upon a lot of these different things we see going on the web right now. There must be an awful lot going on behind the covers. What exactly is that?
There actually is quite a few features that we've implemented at what we refer to as the Marriott Web. And that Marriott Web encompasses the internet, the intranet, and the extranet for Marriott.
Now, when you use those terms, internet, intranet, and extranet, what exactly are you meaning when you say that?
What we mean when we refer to that is the internet is the presence on the web that any person around the world can come in and visit Marriott. Right. Learn about them, make reservations, and that type of stuff. The intranet is being utilized by internal Marriott people to learn and use their information better internally at Marriott.
So it's kind of like the employee communication network.
Exactly. And then there's the extranet, and the extranet is being utilized by Marriott's franchisees to share that same corporate internal information to the franchisees. So that if you were another hotel chain that Marriott owns, you can come in and get all the information about brands, legal information that you need to help build your business.
And that would actually be being available through the internet, but only to that one focus group of individuals
Correct.
that you want to take and take into your family, as I might.
Correct.
Okay, so it's kind of the extranet is a combination between the internet and the intranet.
Exactly.
Providing that.
Exactly.
So from the technology going on behind the scenes, then what are all the pieces here?
Well, actually, the Marriott Web is built upon Microsoft's site server, which includes several features such as content replication, personalization, site analyst, usage analyst, visual interdev for the development tool, and the Enterprise Edition includes commerce server.
And the site server, this is the development piece that was just announced today.
That's correct.
As being available.
That's correct.
As well as a lot more information being available on the web for all these capabilities with the personalization. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of like it's the advanced server capabilities. So if what you're needing is over and above beyond a standard web server, just information on the web, you're actually wanting to have more advanced capabilities, that's where the site server capabilities would come in at.
Most definitely, most definitely. Some of the features that we've implemented on the Marriott Web that are part of site server, one is a personalization. Mike made reference to the ability that when a Marriott guest comes into Marriott, they would like them to come back. That's their lifeblood there. And so what we've done with the Marriott Web, and it even includes the internet, intranet, and extranet also, is when you come to those sites, we've implemented personalization features so that everyone's always going to see the information that they want, it being served up to them for what they need to view. It helps productivity increase.
And the personalization is actually keeping track of the people, not necessarily requiring them to constantly logging in and identifying themselves, but it's actually monitoring them automatically when they come to the site?
Correct.
Right. What are the sort of technologies are you utilizing?
As you see in the demo, there's the employee directory. The employee directory is built on Windows NT and Microsoft SQL Server. And all of the pages are dynamically generated through active server pages with Internet Information Server. So that anywhere, both intra, and extranets, once again, if you're looking for a particular person, you can just go ahead, enter their name in, any kind of search criteria that you'd like, and you're going to find the people that you need to get in touch with. It'll show you emails, pictures, and all that type of stuff.
So you just got a SQL Server database that's maintaining the employee list, like many companies already do today in some fashion, having a database that they can be looking up things, or even just printing out a paper copy once a month or once every 2 weeks, or whatever, how often they need. And all we're doing now is connecting up via these database connectivity objects to get to that information, so that the standard way they're already doing it, we now have that information being available via the web.
Exactly, and a lot of, Marriott has a lot of data that still resides in legacy systems. So through active server pages and the active database objects, we are able to bridge the gap between both Microsoft SQL Server and some of their legacy systems to help integrate that data.
So they didn't have to actually change their databases from whatever format they were into some new format? They're able to keep them on the old format?
That's correct.
That's pretty exciting. But doesn't that kind of mean that we now have a bunch of almost like different development teams working at different layers? I mean, is there any?
No, not at all. Like I was mentioning in the beginning, the Marriott Web has been developed through Microsoft Visual InterDev. And InterDev is a great tool because it allows us the capabilities to do both HTML authoring, active server pages authoring, and also doing all of our database connectivity right through Visual InterDev. So we can actually connect to a SQL Server database, see all the fields, all the tables, and lay out all of our pages all correctly right through Visual InterDev.
Oh, so just with one tool?
One tool.
You can access it the same way that, like using Excel, you can take and be managing the charts in your Excel objects, or the worksheet elements, or some other capabilities, or via the Office 97 with the new binder, being able to work with all your presentations.
Mm-hmm.
Now Visual InterDev ties all that stuff together, so whether it's SQL Server, HTML pages, or any other aspect of putting together a website.
Exactly.
Ties it all together. How long have you been using Visual InterDev?
We've actually been using Visual InterDev for quite a while now. We did a lot of beta testing with it, and there's quite a few people in our organization that are very excited about InterDev, just because of some of the features that I mentioned, and it even goes beyond that also, as it encompasses the same interface as Visual C++ and Visual J++. So while you're in that one unified interface, you can literally develop an incredibly powerful website.
Now, is it the sort of thing that's targeted primarily at developers, or could this be the sort of tool that just a common end user could use?
No, it's more geared toward the power developer is what I would consider it.
Right. So basically the people that are in our audience right now.
Exactly.
The power user. So it's not something for my mom or dad to be pulling out of their back pocket and start developing a website. Well, that's good news. Sometimes I find that some of these tools that are meant for too simplistic of users often don't have the power I need to get into some of the features of a website.
Exactly.
It sounds like, with all the different technologies you've been throwing at the Marriott site. I mean, you've got Visual InterDev, you've got the site server, you've got some SQL Server going on around, and you probably got some imaging tools and all that sort of stuff. Has it been difficult to keep all this coordinated, getting all these components to plug in and make a full cohesive website for Marriott?
Actually, no, it's been fairly simple, because one of the other nice features that comes with doing this full-blown web development is Visual Source Safe. So we're able to keep track of all of our HTML documents, all of our SQL stored procedures, all of our images, and all that type of stuff in one environment. So we're able to track it and keep it flowing properly.
And this is the same sort of work then that Find.com does for a number of other corporations with their intranets, as well as other companies that might want to have an internet presence.
Exactly.
And providing the same, the Visual InterDev, the SQL Server, and you've got your own team of people that can do this, or do you also work with individuals within the corporations that might want to be developers themselves?
We actually try to strategically work with all of our organizations, such as Marriott. We integrate their staff into our staff so that there's a good exchange of information.
Well, it sounds like for Marriott there's a very good solution for them, because since they're not a development company, and you guys are, they're able to take and provide you with the information necessary to create for them a great website that presents a customer resource, not only for their customers, but also for their employees and for their contractors and things that are working with them. Well, thanks a lot, Robert. That gave us some great information on how some of these websites are coming together, and we appreciate the time we had to talk with you.